Are we all set to go?
Yep.
Perfect. Now, Laurence, is it all right if I give a little quick pitch before you start off your workshop?
Of course, I just want to make sure that I can actually share screen after that. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, welcome everyone who is attending the first very workshop of the National Business Plan Competition. This is a multi-series of educational workshops that we'll be running along with this massive competition that the College Leap organization is running. And you may have heard of College Leap. I'm hoping you have. It is a national nonprofit that aims to empower community college students, especially international students across the country. We establish chapters at various different college campuses to provide leadership and internship opportunities there. Also, we will be launching 6 national events throughout the year, and the NBPC is just the very first one. Our virtual transfer fair will be coming up in October, so stay tuned for that. And also the NBPC. Now, this is the main event that you guys are all interested into, and I want to give you guys the full rundown of what we have going on for that. This is an opportunity for many community college students to learn about entrepreneurship, to practice business skills, and get tapped into the UC Berkeley entrepreneurship ecosystem. If you haven't registered already, please register on the College Leap website with the tab NBPC. That's where you can sign up through your individual college, or if you're not a part of any of the colleges that we are partnered with, then there's always the open session that you can sign up for. And other than participating in the NBPC and other events, you can also apply to be a chapter leader at College Leap's chapter in your college, or you can start a College Leap chapter at your guys' college. It's always nice to see new faces, and I always appreciate meeting new people. All those chapter leaders will be considered as interns of a nonprofit. Onboarding and training sessions will be provided, and we'll sync up meetings with College Leap every week. So please, for more information on the College Leap Join Us tab, and then you can send this, or we'll send an email out to you on that. Now, there's many things that we need to discuss about the NBPC, many things that you've already seen on the flyers. And I know you guys have very many questions that you can always ask. You can always ask those that are organizing your event at your college. You can reach to me at my email, dylanmjohnson55@gmail.com. And of course, I'll put that out for you guys, and we can always answer any questions that you guys have, so that we can get you ready and going. And I will save the most of the question stuff for the very end after Laurence has done his thing. But I always like to end it on a quote. This is one of my favorite quotes, actually. Success isn't, or the reason why you'll get successful is not because, you aim high and miss. It's because you aim low and hit. Do not undermine yourself. Try to aim high. Bring it forward, and you may see that you might accomplish great things. This is your opportunity to aim high, and you may not get super far, but this will be an experience that you can take forward. Do not settle and just come to the workshops and try not to get anything out of it. It's a perfect opportunity for that. Actually, for right now, since Professor Laurence is getting prepared to show his presentation over to people, I can then kind of talk about some of the questions and the logistics of the competition at the very start, so that way we can guys get you going right away. So for the competition, we are going to be having their very first round this week, or not this week, on the October month, running from the very beginning of October all the way to mid-October. That in the first round, you guys will be able to compete within your guys' colleges. So there are a total of, I believe, 16 different colleges, perhaps more, that are competing inside of this competition. Though if you are partnering with anyone or any other individual that's not inside of your college, Then you're going to be moved over into the open session. And the open sessions will be on October 18th on 3 separate times. We also do have a forum that if you're looking for a team of individuals to kind of partner along with you because you don't want to do it alone or you just can't find a team, then you can sign up on that form and then we'll partner you up with someone to help you out with getting a team together.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
There we go.
that is awesome. So thank you, thank you for bearing with me. I think things are better now. I think I'm even on camera. You can see me?
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Wonderful. So I'm gonna get started. I apologize for our technology glitches here, but we're gonna get going. As Carlos and Jay mentioned, I'm Laurence Lew. I work at Foothill College. I'm a business instructor there. I am really honored to be here to kick off this workshop series and to talk to you a little bit about what I know about business and about how to get an idea. I know that the workshop was billed as brainstorming and coming up with an idea that has social impact. I really am trying to help you to just get into your brain and hopefully, you know, find out what's in there and search for ideas. I'm not going to, I don't have the answers. I'm not going to tell you the right way to get anything, but I am going to share with you some of my experiences and things that I've seen from other people. And hopefully that can lead you to a good place. So let's get started. I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about your experience, you as people. You all have great experiences and those are the places to start. We're going to also talk a little bit about what it means to be an entrepreneur, what's an entrepreneurial mindset. We'll talk about innovation a little bit about forms of innovation and ways of thinking innovatively. Then we'll talk a little bit about problems, solutions, and advantages, and we'll go from there. I know that this is a webinar and it's Zoom and we all have our portrait photos online and I can't see you, but I really want to make sure that you engage and interact. And so I'm hoping that if you have questions, you type it into the chat box or you know, make sure that at the end of the session, we'll have time for questions. Also, I just want to have you feel comfortable to interact in any way possible. And so I'm going to ask you to do something really quickly. If you are able to, can you take your smart device, like your phone, and scan in the QR code that's on your screen now? Or if you have access to you know, your laptop, go to slido.com and type in that number right there on the screen, W766. And I'm going to ask you to interact right now. Just tell me where you're from. I'm in San Francisco. I see Palo Alto. I'm wondering if are we all in the Bay Area? Oh, lots of San Francisco people. Okay. Do we have anybody from somewhere else? Like, oh, Berkeley, Palo Alto, Union City. Okay, there's someone from Paris, France. That's quite far. Thank you for coming. And so we see a bunch of places. Culver City. I used to live in Los Angeles. So wow, we're getting a lot of great things. So I want to just make sure that you feel comfortable to interact. And at periods in the rest of this time that we're together, I am going to ask for your opinion and your thoughts. So please be prepared to share. Okay, so Carlos likes to have quotes, and so do I. Here's a quote. Discovery consists in seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking what no one else has thought. The gentleman who said this, his name is Albert Szent-Györgyi. He probably is not someone you are very familiar with, and if you are, you get a gold star. He invented vitamin C, and I'm not talking to you about him because he invented vitamin C, but I do really love this quote, and I really love it because it talks about the fact that we as human beings, we all can experience the same experiences, but we all have different points of view. And this is really important when you talk about ideas and ideation. So let me tell you a little bit of a story of Sam Goldman. And maybe you don't know him, or maybe you do know him. He, like you, went to school and he graduated undergrad, and he decided he was going to go straight to business school, and he changed his mind. he went to Africa, and he worked for the Peace Corps, and he taught English. And it was a great thing for him. He loved doing it. And he was really good with kids. And he was in a small village in West Africa. And one night after he had finished teaching English, he was reading in his hut. It was a village with no running water, no electricity. And he heard this blood-curdling scream, ah, like that. And he rushed out of his hut to see what happened. And he found in the hut next to him, it was on fire. And a young child who had been studying English was burned, and third-degree burns all over his body. Fortunately, he didn't die. He had burns. And Sam was like, oh my God, this is awful. I mean, you know, how can we do something about this? And he decided to just investigate this thing. And he learned that in developing nations and across the globe, 20% of the world's population lacks electricity. And they use kerosene to light their days or light their nights. And if you know anything about kerosene, kerosene is an awful chemical, and it causes a lot of damage. But it is cheap, and it is useful to cast light. 1.5 million people die each year from kerosene-related deaths. This caused Sam to think. He went back to school. He went to Stanford. He went to Stanford to business school, and it became his charge to figure out how to crack this nut, how to solve this problem. And he created a company called D-Light. D-Light, you can see, it provides affordable lighting for developing nations. And I could talk about it, but let me show you a little video. Here we go.
Around the world, 1.1 billion people use kerosene to light their homes. Each month, they spend as much as 30% of their incomes on fuel, and in the process, they fill their homes and lungs with dirty air, all while risking dangerous kerosene fires. For this massive group of consumers, solar lanterns are the obvious answer, but for many, the products available to them are simply out of reach. But not anymore. Thanks to a marriage of innovative technology and affordability, the D-Light A1 is poised to light up millions of lives. Best of all, the A1 will do it at a cost of just $5 per lantern. Featuring just a single button, the A1 couldn't be easier to use, and its powerful light fills an entire room for 4 hours on a single charge. With its ultra-simple, drop-proof, and water-resistant design, the A1 is ideally suited for both indoor and outdoor use. The A1 will give tens of millions of families the extra hours of light they need to work, study, and play. Moreover, switching from kerosene to the A1 frees families to spend their money where it counts most. Starting today, kerosene doesn't stand a chance. Thanks to our other solar lamps, D-Light has already improved the lives of 50 million people, but we're not stopping there. Our goal is to reach 100 million people. With the A1, we can get there.
So Sam Goldman, D-Light, these are examples of a person who thought of an idea and brought it to light. I'm going to ask you guys a question now. You guys are all here for College Leap and all here for the National Business Plan Competition. I'm going to ask you this question that you see on your screen. How developed is your business idea right now? Do you have an idea that's currently launched and possibly selling? Do you have an idea that is fully formed, partially formed? Maybe you don't have quite an idea yet. I'm just trying to figure out how you guys, where you all are. And I'm seeing people, and it looks like most of you that are talking have a partially defined idea, need some refinement. Some of you have, about a third of you have a general idea, but not a specific business yet. Some of you don't have an idea yet, which is okay. You're excited to begin. I think that's really cool. And a few of you have fully defined, and no one's not currently launched yet. That's okay. This is cool. So we can talk a lot about this in the few minutes that we have left together. Most of you have some idea of what you want to do, which is really great. And for those of you who don't have an idea specifically yet, hopefully we can help you get started. Let's move on. I love this quote. You'll be seeing it a lot. So again, Albert talks about seeing what everyone has seen and thinking what no one else has thought. Think about what you can do with all of that. Ideas come to you, and sometimes people say, oh, you just have to go out there and find find all the right information, find the right thoughts, connect the dots. Sometimes though, there's too many dots. There's a lot of dots. And perhaps you might need to actually focus and figure out which dots to connect. Because when you take some time and dive into a specific area, you might actually come up with an idea. If we think about entrepreneurs, that might help us to think about how we can focus. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. You all probably have heard the term, I'm sure, and you probably have a definition. I've got a definition up here about what it is. A person who initiates, organizes, and manages a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. This is Webster's Dictionary's version. And if you think about entrepreneurs, you might say, oh, I know what they are like. And maybe some of you are entrepreneurs or aspire to be, or maybe some of you aren't or don't want to be. I'm going to ask you another question. I like to ask questions. What traits do you believe best describe an entrepreneur? I see some here already. Tell me what you think. Just put in a word. What is a one trait, characteristic, attribute? I see leadership, I see creative, I see innovation, a lot of innovation, and there's a bunch. So risk taker, obviously risk taker, empathy, dedication, determined, flexible, passion, vision, perseverance. There's a ton, and it keeps, and the list keeps getting bigger and bigger. Do you have to have all of them? I'm not sure. Keep doing and keep telling us what you think. I'm going to move to the next slide, which gives you a list of what someone says. It's Startup Nation from last year, that 10 common traits of an entrepreneur. And maybe the trait that you said is on this list, and maybe the trait that you said is not on this list. The thing about traits of an entrepreneur, there's not one guaranteed recipe for it. And in fact, there are many ways to do things as an entrepreneur. It's a mindset. It's kind of like a way of thinking, a way of life. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where the word entrepreneur comes from. Because if you close your eyes and you think about an entrepreneur, like trying to picture an entrepreneur, do that. Who comes to mind? You don't tell me. Just think about it. And do they have all the characteristics or traits that you thought about, or that you saw that your colleagues mentioned? Think now, when and where did the word entrepreneur come from? Sounds French. There's someone from France here. Did it come from there? Well, the origin of the word is quite old. And in fact, it comes from Sanskrit. And it's, please forgive me for the pronunciation, entrepreneur. It means self-motivation, nothing about money. From there, it actually moved into France. And so you're right, French, the word entrepreneur, and the person from France, you can correct my pronunciation, means to undertake. So you're motivated from within, and you're going to start to do something. In the 1700s, that's when they started to tie this word to business. A venture with no guarantee of profit. And you probably can relate to that now. I mean, entrepreneurs nowadays, they go in and they start a business, and they probably will fail the first time, or maybe not, who knows. But there's no guarantee of profit. If you wanted a guaranteed profit, you'd go work for someone else, right? In the 1800s, the economist Jean-Baptiste Say actually took the word and added value, an individual who creates value. So somebody who actually creates something worth something. And then in the 20th century, the notion of innovation came into play. Innovation, a word that's widely used. What does it actually mean? We'll talk about that in a minute. And then in the mid 20th century, the connotation of problem solving also got in. So now we have motivated from within, wanting to undertake a task, business venture with no guarantee of profit, but you create value and you innovate and you problem solve. And then later on, most recently, we talked about social impact. You may have heard of a term, social entrepreneur. This is a new flavor of that. So then this is a kind of a walk through the history of entrepreneurship. Why do I do this? Why am I talking about this? Because I think you can learn a little bit about the mindset of what it means to be an entrepreneur and help you to actually focus and think about how you can think of ideas. Here's another guy. His name is Kevin Plank. He thought differently. He saw the same things that we all saw. He went to college. He was a football guy. He was a short football guy. He was not too big, and he wanted to be on the you can see the University of Maryland football team. He wanted to be on the team, and he didn't get on. He was there for the first freshman season, and he wasn't able to get on the team. Later on, he got on the team. And he became a really good contributing member of the team. He sweat a lot, and really like a lot. And so when he was working out with the team on the field, he actually would just be drenched all the time. And he just got weighed down with sweat. The shirt that he would wear during practices accumulated so much sweat, about 3 pounds of sweat. It caused him to not perform well when he was on the field. He thought this is a big problem. And I said, I need to fix this because I want to perform better for my team. And so he tried to figure out, what can I do? He wasn't anybody who knew anything about clothing. He didn't know anything about physiology. He couldn't stop the sweat. So what did he do? He actually went to the local garment district and went around and talked to people and said, I need to figure this thing out. How can I make a shirt that doesn't sweat? And I don't have a lot of money because I'm a college student. He used $450. He made 7 prototypes. He actually went to this one place, and this one person, she said, oh, I've got the material for you, and I'm going to work with you to make prototypes of this shirt. And he made the shirt, and he used it in practice, and he still sweat like tons. But the shirt didn't capture the sweat. And so instead of 3 pounds of sweat on him, it was much lighter, and it was beautiful. And all the people around him saw how well he performed and said, hey, Kevin, give me one of those shirts. And he said, sure, I got some prototypes, I'll give them to you. And then he decided, he went, poof, I could sell these shirts. And he decided to do that. And from 7 prototypes and starting a business in his grandma's basement in 1996, you probably can guess, he turned it into a $4.6 billion company in 2020, Under Armour. That's their story. Seeing the same thing as everyone else and thinking something different. Everybody sweats, but he said he did something about it. He said, it's not just a problem that I have to deal with or use some deodorant, antiperspirant. I'm going to create a new product, and that's what he did. This is the way you think about inspiration and innovation. These are the paths. Kevin and Sam both saw certain things. They saw a situation, they saw a problem, and they said, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do something about it. And that's at the core of innovation, right? Innovation, if you look at Webster's dictionary, it's all about, this is a very simple definition, right? It's a new idea, a new method, new device. I like to think of it, there's another person that's kind of unknown, creativity with a purpose. So you're trying to be creative, you're trying to get some ideas, and there's a reason why you're doing it. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about innovation and the different kinds of innovation that might be of interest to you in the business world. Let's think about 4 kinds of innovation. Product innovation. So we left off at product innovation. The thing here is that there are 4 types based on customer, market, and product. We talked about incremental product innovation, which is really small changes to existing products for existing customers. The next thing to think about is architectural innovation, which is existing products for new markets. And so you might say, well, I have a product and instead of innovating on the product itself, I might innovate on who could use it. It could be, there's a bunch of examples. One example that maybe you all are too young to know about, or maybe not. Do you know about a Sony Walkman? A Sony Walkman is probably the first portable music device. You guys now can listen to music all sorts of ways. You can listen to it, with the AirPods and all sorts of streaming types of music. Back in the day, in the 1970s, I guess it was, before AirPods and all that, there was the Sony Walkman, and Sony Walkman was basically it was the same technology that you could see in a home stereo, but they made it smaller and put it into a little box. This is an example of and so it's existing technology, but it was used for to enter a new market. Young people like you who wanted to listen to music, what no one else could hear, and you could tune out your parents and all that kind of stuff. And so that was a new market. This was an example of an architectural product innovation. If you move over and you say, well, what about new products for existing markets? Then that's where you talk about disruptive innovation. Disruptive innovation meaning how do I take an area where there are customers who are buying things for specific needs, and how can I create something new? How do I do that? An example in this slide, an example of disruptive would be Netflix. Now, you guys all use Netflix, but you probably don't use Netflix the way that I started to use Netflix. Netflix started out this way on the screen. You see that like a little envelope with a little DVD, and they started out small, and they started out servicing a very like unattractive niche market. It was usually, and who was their competitor? You guys know? The big dog at the time when Netflix started was Blockbuster, and I don't know if you know Blockbuster. They're not really around anymore. They were the ones that you would go to. Like my family would go to the Blockbuster store, and we'd rent cassette tapes to watch movies. And it was like an on-demand thing. Like you really want to watch the latest movies, and you would go to the store, you'd rent a video cassette tape, a VCR tape, and you'd bring it home and you'd take it in. And Netflix didn't compete directly with Blockbuster. And the market was for people who wanted to have home movies, right? Instead of going to the theater, you'd get the VCR tape, you take it home and you'd rent it. Netflix was using new technology. They were using DVDs better than VCRs, right? DVDs are now old technology, but at the time they used it, and they were targeting these people who would be willing to take, like, you would mail in, you would say, I want a movie, and they would mail it to you a few days later, and then you would watch it and you would mail it back, and it's pretty hassle, right? It's not very convenient. But the people that they were targeting were like me, nerds, who wanted to watch, maybe old movies or sci-fi movies or things like that. And so we would be willing to wait a little longer. We'd be willing to, do something different. And what happened was they started with us, small niche market, and then they grew into larger markets because they started to get more of the popular titles. They started to get more of the market share, and so they disrupted Blockbuster and VCRs and videotapes. So that's a disruptive type of innovation. The one where we talk about new markets and new customers and new products, that's radical innovation. And everybody points to the first iPhone. I don't know if you guys remember the first iPhone. I don't know if you had it, but before the first iPhone, there was no market like there is now for smartphones. Phones were really just used for phones, maybe for texting. But now phones are really different, right? And think about what you use your phone for now. Use it for everything, right? It's like your third arm, and you use it for to stay connected to the world. You do all sorts of things with it. But before that, there was no market, right? And so this new product created a new market, and that's radical innovation. Okay, so I don't know how much time we have left, and so this is a a framework for types of product innovation. I'm going to quickly go through a couple of other things that I want to share with you. And then I know Carlos and Jay, keep me honest with respect to time. I know we have to probably hard stop at noon, or at 4. So let's go to mindsets of innovation. So we just talked about customer and product innovation. Now, ways of thinking. And I'm going to talk quickly about 3 ways of thinking. And in the interest of time, I won't be able to give you a lot of examples, but we can talk more about those offline if you would like. First one, when you're thinking in an innovative mindset, what ways can you try to put things together? So sometimes you're working on solving a problem, like maybe, sweat, Kevin Plank, and you want to get inspiration somewhere. You could be a sunbird. So this is a hummingbird. And a sunbird, what they do is they take things from one place, like the hummingbird goes and feeds on a flower in one place, and they go and they move and they feed on another flower somewhere else. And in the process, they take pollen from one flower and they pollinate another flower. This is taking a solution from one place, existing solution, and transporting it to some other place and trying it out. So it could be anything. Maybe you get inspiration from medicine and you do it in, I don't know, music, or you get inspiration in healthcare and you do it in something else. Think about examples like that. Have you ever heard of the first Nike waffle tread shoe? It was the most innovative shoe of its time. It was invented, an athletic sports shoe was invented by a young man who was having breakfast with his wife, who created, who was making breakfast. She made a waffle and she gave him the waffle. And based on the tread of the waffle iron, he was able to actually create the new Nike shoe. Sunbirds taking one solution from one place, putting it to somewhere else. Another example of innovation, another example of innovation would be integrators. Integrators, instead of taking one solution from one place and putting it somewhere else, they think about 2 things that may not seem to go together: peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter and banana, or something like fast food that is really done well. When you think about fast food, you can think about McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken or anything like that. If you all know about a company called Chipotle, regardless of whether you like it or not, Chipotle is an example of an integrator. The founder of Chipotle, what he did was he believed that you could have fast food that wasn't frozen and that wasn't, poorly made. The founder of Chipotle actually was trained at the Culinary Institute of America, one of the finest schools for chefs. And so he wanted to take his training and give it to the masses. This was before Chipotle. This wasn't really done. If it was fast food, it's McDonald's. And if it's high class food, then it costs a lot and it's gonna take a long time. You couldn't have good, cheap food. Chipotle broke the mold using the integrator fashion of thinking. Another way of doing it, so there was Sunbird, and then there's integrator, then there's architect. Architect, this way of thinking is sometimes you're bounded by all of these rules and constraints from society or the way that things have been done before. And architects, they say, screw it, I'm going to start from scratch. And right now, actually, in these times that we're in, these past 6-7 months, COVID times, this is a really good time to think about this kind of innovation because the rules are changed. All rules changed. Globalization, not so big anymore. Supply chain, all things are changing. So this is an example. And someone who's done that, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but it's Elon Plank. If I said who was Elon Plank 10 years ago, nobody would know. Now everybody knows. And he's done a lot with just not listening to the rules and just starting from scratch. Example of SpaceX, you see this here. The thought of SpaceX, the thought of having a rocket and being able to send people like in mass transit through the space was impossible. People thought that can't be done. And he said, no, it can be. And he blew up all the rules. And I'd be happy to share with you what he did. some other time. We don't, in the interest of time, I want to get to this more equally important thing, which is all about this. The best business ideas, they solve problems, they satisfy needs. This is the key, right? You can't just have a business idea that's, oh, it's fun, I want to make a pink, I don't know, fluffy toy, and no one wants it. Someone has to want it for some reason. Solving a problem, satisfying a need. And the first steps towards doing that, you gotta address a specific problem, just like Kevin with the sweat, or Sam with the kerosene lamps. You have to have a solution. You have to figure out a sustainable advantage. Think about, I have tons of students coming to me that want to start a new boba shop. And I'm like, okay, great, but that's the 50th boba shop around. What's so different and advantageous to yours? You have to have one. Okay, here we go. There's a few more things. If you think about your problem, there's some characteristics to think about there. And I'm gonna leave you with this. This is the last thing I'll talk about. The problem that you are thinking about, depending on what your goal is, right? Is your goal to start a business, to be, super rich, to be successful, to make an impact, to help the planet? What is your goal? There are some questions that you can ask, and here's examples of some of them. How widespread is the problem that you're addressing? Is it something that addresses thousands of people, one person, somewhere in between? Is the problem growing? Are more people being affected by this problem? How urgent is it to be solved? Does it need to be solved right away? Must it be solved, otherwise bad things happen? And how costly is it if you don't solve it? What impacts happen? And how costly is it to solve it, right? Finally, one fifth thing to think about is, how frequently does this problem occur? Is this a problem that you're solving that everybody just solves once in their lifetime? Or do they have to do it every day, every day once a day, or every day multiple times a day? These things can help you understand where your problem lies. That I know we have to stop, so I'm gonna finish it up with this, which is the components of thinking about what you want to do and coming up with an idea. Draw from your own experience. Think about the things that are around you. Think about things that you know. What problems do you see? What problems do you experience? Use innovative thinking to think differently. Think about different types of innovation, whether it be incremental or radical. And then think about the different mindsets. Can you draw from solutions from other places, or can you put things that don't seem to go together and then they magically fit? Or do you have to start from scratch again? Different ways to approach the problem. And then finally, really make sure that you are quantifying the problem, addressing it, and aligning it to your solution. Whatever your product is, it really has to solve the problem that you're focusing on. Last thing, incorporate a clear advantage. Don't just be one of the herd. Find a way to stand out. This, I know it's rushed, and I'm happy to talk with each and any one of you if you want after or any other time. I can take now, I guess, 2 minutes of questions. Anybody? Am I still on?
Oh yeah, well, people probably post questions in the chat. They actually can't use their voices in a panelist call.
Okay, so let's look at the chat. Do you have it here? Is it in this Q&A thing?
Yeah, if you click on Q&A, one of the questions is, would it be okay if the session could be longer to cover more about the process and clearer understanding? Well, actually, yeah, some of these are for us, but do you want to talk a little bit more about, the process of putting a business together, and just kind of like, a little bit more about, actually, here's a great question that I saw earlier. Should the business, like when you're putting a business plan together, what do you mean by like putting around a realistic business? Because I think a lot of people are thinking really outside the box with their idea, and thinking like they can make an elevator to space or something like that. So what do you have to say about, students making an idea that's possible?
Well, I definitely believe in being as creative as you want to be with regards to your ideas. Now, with respect to bringing a business from conception in your seedling thought to actual reality, and you talked about an elevator to space, for example, then you have to think, well, there's one thing about the need. Well, maybe there's some people who want to have an elevator that goes to space. And then there's also the feasibility. How feasible is it for me to make something, such thing? Is there technology? Can I make it in a cost-effective manner? Is it possible to make profit? If you are thinking about a business venture that's making profit versus nonprofit, then you have to think about that. There are different avenues about, again, what is your ultimate goal with the business? Are you thinking to create a, knock it out of the park, venture capital, 10x profit or 100x profit margin for ventures? Or are you thinking a lifestyle business, or are you thinking something else? So those can help to determine what you want to do. For this this competition, I leave it to you guys, Carlos, Jay, to discuss, what kinds of things are there. But I do know in the presentations, you will have to talk about problems and solutions. You'll have to talk about business models, like how are you going to make money? You will talk about market opportunity. You'll talk about growth strategy. You also have to have financials. So if you are financials, meaning things like projected income statements, balance sheets, things like that. So that's very important for talking about how realistic it is. And again, depending on what your goal is, if you really want it to become real, then you have to think about those types of things.
We got a couple more questions coming in from the Q&A session.
Sure. Have you made any businesses yourself, and can you tell us more about that? Okay, so I come from, I'm your stereotypical Chinese American young person who grew up in the back of a Chinese restaurant. And so I did start a Chinese restaurant in my college years with my family. Also, I did some work in Asia with a consulting firm. Some of my friends and I, we started a firm to do business between Asia and the United States a while back. What can I tell you about it? There's a lot. So if you're going to start your own business, be prepared for wild rides and be prepared for all unexpected things. And also look for opportunity where you might not expect it, because the next partner, the next idea, the next resource could be anywhere. And what else can I tell you? It's exciting. It's scary. It's not for everybody, I think. But for those of you who have that bug in you that you want to do something, and again, remember I talked about entrepreneurs and the etymology. If you just want to make a ton of money, I don't think that's necessarily the best motivator to be an entrepreneur. That's just my personal opinion. I think that there's a lot around changing, problem solving, leaving a mark or having impact, and that for me is a larger driver. So that's what I believe in. Let's see, are there others? How about, what is your favorite idea that you've heard this year? Oh, wow. So I hear a lot of ideas from, and most of them nowadays, they come from people like you guys. And so I'm not gonna single out a single favorite idea, but I'll give you characteristics. And let me tell you this, in my position now as a instructor at Foothill College, I'm not going to tell you that you have a bad idea. And not because I'm trying to, make nice or anything like that, but I think it's my job to push you and to get you to flip the narrative, because everybody's always trying to knock you down, right? Like why doesn't your idea work, and why is it so bad? And I want to get you to a place where you think about, what's so great about the idea, and what if I did this thing, how could it be the best possible? And so that's my point. And so sometimes I really am looking for people to come to me with ideas like that are seem a little bit strange, but just could possibly go. That's what I think. Let's see, there's others. What is our competitor? Will the judge ask you? I don't think that's for me. You mentioned lots of people wanted to create Boba shops. Yes. If I were to create one myself, you would, how would you do it? Given your experience working as in a family restaurant. Okay, so boba shop is not necessarily a radical innovation, right? A boba shop is something that everybody has. There's a market for it. I would try to, well, first of all, I would try to be different, right? In some way, shape, or form. You could do it by, again, thinking about a niche market that you want to, do something differently and then branch out. You could do it with a specific kind of maybe boba product, maybe for sugar-free. I mean, boba is like sugar bomb, right? So it could be that. There might be some ways for you to think about. Now I'm just, kind of brainstorming with you. What else? People that like boba are usually younger people. Maybe there's some way to branch out to other markets and do that. My experience working in a family restaurant taught me that food is very, very fickle. It's a very fickle industry, and you have to understand how to ride it. And especially now in the current market with COVID, there's a lot of opportunities for you to again, think out of the box. I love Korean barbecue. I used to go to Korean barbecue all the time, and now I can't, right? Because it's enclosed and all that. But then a friend of mine said what he's going to do is actually create boba kits, not boba kits, Korean barbecue kits, and get the best beef and the little tray and the fire and package it all together and send it to you. And it's going to be sterilized and sanitized, and it's all safe, and you can do it in your home, and that's the deal. So I think that's a good way to think about it. Try and, again, innovate in a way that you can differentiate and have a sustainable advantage that you can protect. Other questions? Should I keep going?
Yeah, if you're okay with it.
I'm okay. So do you think you'd go back to this? Oh, okay, I can do that if you guys want. This person said, do you want to go back to the Sunbird and integrator slides? So I can just tell you really briefly about those. Let's go back. How do I do that? Let's see. Oh, I see here. I'm still sharing my screen. So the thing about this way of thinking, innovative mindsets, right? It's just a way of thinking, this is not telling you this is the idea. This is telling you, how might you think differently? And so the Sunbird mindset, frame of mind is, if you are, let's say, in restaurants and you're doing boba, maybe the solution for your idea, for your business, might come from a completely different place. Maybe it could be from windsurfing, or it could be from, I don't know, chemistry, and so look for it in places that you might not especially think of. The example that I put in here is Starbucks. Starbucks is pretty ubiquitous now, right? I mean, it's everywhere. It's like there's a ton of coffee houses. There's Starbucks, there's Pete's, there's my favorite Phil's. Then it depends, right? But when Starbucks wasn't around, before there was a Starbucks, what was there? There was, where'd you get coffee? You could get it at a coffee shop, right? Like a Denny's or something. You could get it at a gas station. And it was a different kind of thing. And what Steve Ells did, Howard Smith, what he did was he actually took the concept from Italy. The cafes in Italy and Europe, they're different than they are here. And he brought that idea here. Now, he didn't bring it exactly the same, because the cafes in Italy, they got the bow ties and the shirts and the everything is different. They had to change it to fit the consumer here, but still the idea was from there. Now, this is a geographic Sunbirds, right? Like, it worked there and worked here. Same thing with technology. You can think about back probably 10 years ago or 15 years ago, the US was kind of a leader in high technology. Think about internet technologies, and then you'd always say, if you're from China, not now, definitely not now, but let's say 15 or 20 years ago, they would say, oh, such and such is the Amazon of China, and that's because they brought an idea from the US and put it over somewhere else. Geographic Sunbird innovation happens all the time. So that's Sunbirds. The other one, integrators. This one. You think about again, in any industry that you think about, whether it's food or retail or clothing or automotive, there are usually rules like, oh, you can't do this. Think about fashion. You guys are probably young, in your 18s or teens or early 20s, right? And so for you, stores like H&M or any of those fast fashion stores, you grew up with them. Before that, there was no such thing, right? You would have to wait seasons to get new clothes, new styles of clothes. Something like Banana Republic, which is going down the tubes, they would have 4 seasons of clothing products. And it was a very different model. Nowadays, you can have, if you see something somewhere online or somewhere, you could have that clothing next week or maybe even tomorrow. Depends on how fast the supply chain is. And that's an example of integrator innovation, because it used to be, you think, okay, if you want really good clothing, it'll take you a long time. But now those rules are different, right? That's integrator. The last one that I mentioned, which was the architect. The architect, this one, okay, so I'll just tell you a little bit since you say we can go. The thing about SpaceX and Elon Plank, right? What he did was he said, he had a question. He said, can I do this? Can I take a rocket and actually put it into space and use it like I could use a bus? Can I do that, right? And basically he wanted to do interplanetary space travel for the masses. And that's not something that people said was possible, because it was basically too expensive, right? The big thing about interplanetary space travel was that it is so costly. And he learned more about it. We learned that the cost of the rocket was not the cost of the materials. The cost of the rocket was a whole bunch of other stuff. And in fact, the cost of the rocket was primarily due to the fact that back in the day, not now, and you see what Elon's doing, there was no such thing as rocket reuse, right? You would use a rocket and then you'd throw it away. Think about that if you're with your car, right? You buy a car, you take it off the lot, you drive it home, right? You go inside, you sleep, you come out, and you buy a new car to go from, because you throw away the car. You buy a new car, you drive it from home to school, then you throw it away, you buy a new car, and you drive it from school back to home. That's what they do with the rockets, and that's why they cost so much. So he said, I'm not going to do that. He said, I'm going to actually, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to build everything myself. I'm going to build it so it's going to be reusable. I'm going to redesign and make all the parts. Now, this is a big deal, because when you have middle people, right, like someone who makes the wheels and someone who makes the metal and someone who makes everything, and then you have to put it all together, there's cost, there's margin that goes for each part, and it drives up the cost. So he built everything, and he says, I'm just going to keep everything cheap. And because he did that, the cost of his rockets was about 10%. This is before, I don't know now. 10% of the government built rockets. And so that's because he just didn't believe, what people said. And so I'm going to start from scratch and do it all over. Okay. Should we stop? How are we doing? I want to honor your guys' time. Where are we?
Yeah, I think maybe we can take another 4 minutes if that's okay, because we have a lot of questions. If that's okay with you, Professor.
Yeah, I'm okay. If we have an idea that needs further refining, who should we talk to in order to seek? That is a question I think, Jay, you will answer, right? So I'll leave to that. Is there a place to find who the judge will be? No, that's not for me. Oh, here's one. It seems we don't have to strictly be one of 3 mindsets. Rather, we can use ideas from all 3, correct? This is Jay Trang. Jay, you are absolutely spot on. And all I'm doing for you now is giving you some examples of ways of thinking, types of innovation, like incremental and radical and disruptive. Those are just, think of them as guideposts, right? And even if for example, some people, they will say to you that Netflix is not disruptive, it's radical. And they will give you an argument. I think all of this, whether it's mindset that you can use, pick and choose, or whether it's a type of innovation, this is just ways to help you get to your goal. And there's no perfect formula for it. It's your formula, your personal thing. And so, Jay, you're right. I'll say that. I think I'm good. Is there some? Do you see another question that I should ask? Oh, sir. Nathaniel Matthews says, I'm targeting a niche market in a somewhat existing market. I was wondering how I should proceed. So you have an existing market, and let's say it's shoes. Existing market is shoes, and let's say the niche market is something like, I don't know, people that I don't know, that have flat feet, and so you're targeting that niche. Definitely, you want to understand the difference. What's the difference between the overall market and your niche? What's specific to that? And what specific problems do they face? What needs do they have that's different than others? What competitors are targeting that niche, if any? If there are no competitors, then it's probably one of two things, right? It's either, if there's no competitors, it's either that they haven't identified that niche yet, or that niche is not profitable, or maybe there's no way for you to get to that. There could be some reason. So be careful if there's no competitors. If there's competitors, you want to figure out who they are, how they're satisfying the niche, where are they strong and weak, and how can you position yourself against them, right? How can you provide something different? Again, sustainable advantage. How can you do that? I think I'm going to stop there unless there's something else you want, Jay.
All right, then I think that's it. All right, thank you so much, Professor Liu, for giving this presentation. I believe, based on the number of questions we get, I believe most of people are pretty engaging during the process and learn a lot. And hopefully that can be helpful when you prepare for your competition. And for the other questions concerning the logistic of this competition, you can always email us to team@collegeleap.cc, or you can always put in the chat box. So we do have a chat box function on our webpage. You can always use that function, and we will answer you as soon as we saw it.
Actually, since you guys are all here, I can mention that by being a part of this one session, this is actually a very critical part of worth about like 10 points on the rubric about what is the issue you're trying to solve. And then there's a couple, I don't know if you guys have seen the rubric at all. However, it goes in depth about describing, the difference between trying to find a solution to not just a fad. And if you guys don't know what a fad is, it's just a temporary thing. Like, I don't know, think of fidget spinners and how they had a very short lifespan. But yeah, I can pull up the rubric actually for you guys like right now, and you guys can see that, and I can show you exactly what I mean by this presentation going over the very first point. Give me 1 second to pull up my stuff. Okay. Right here, found it, perfect. So, I'll share my screen. So, right here, we have the rubric for you guys, the NBPC judging rubric for the first round and the regional round. This workshop right here is covering the first point, identify a problem / a need. And this also goes a little bit into the solution and value proposition. And I think Laurence has covered it really well about establishing the fact that you need to address a problem. When you go up to the judges and you're explaining them your product or your service, you can explain what is exactly the need or the problem that you're trying to fix with the item or service you're trying to provide. And I would say the very strongest point is one that is really clear with a relevant issue in society and makes a strong case as to why people would pay money for it over other items. You really need to make sure that you're not addressing just a fad trend, like something that only a particular people like. That is only going to be something that's short-lived and not lasting a long business. There's a really good reason as to why only 1 out of 10 businesses ever really make it successful. It's because the problem and identity of what it needs to be in line of will people pay for it. So that's just really good point to hammer in right there when you're taking away with this and you're watching this presentation. And for the rubric, we will have that up for you guys, and then we'll put it up for everyone. I get to show you guys a little sneak peek for everybody here because you guys came to the call, so give you guys a little bit of an advantage over everybody else who didn't attend. Huh, what else could I give you guys as a ticket for coming to the very first one? Oh, and let me pass host over to you. There you go. I'm done sharing my screen. Examples of past winners or rolling blackout in this area. Actually, so examples of past winners, actually we don't have any. This is the very first time that we're running this competition. So that's why we are very surprised and very glad that everyone is taking such a big interest in what we're doing. So you guys are the very first people to be, pushing on ahead and kind of taking this over to success. Now, I do have my ideas of what would be a successful presentation, and I'm always glad to help out, though I have to be fair. But yeah, I'd love to, help out with anything that you guys are doing. You guys are entrepreneurships of business competitions. That's true, yeah. We're getting the first movers mark on this. So yeah, make sure you're taking advantage of that. Oh, and the rubric was posted just on there. Are there just 3 criteria? No, there's actually about 140 different points. So on the rubric, you'll get to see that there's 7 different categories for the business plan, and then for delivery, 4 points. Yeah, and this is going to be 40 points for delivery and 75 points for the business plan. And then you'll receive extra points for if the audience or the judge likes your idea. So they'll be giving the judge pick a couple of points for those that just really had a really great idea and just really worked well as a team. And then an audience favorite. So those that were going to be joining for watching the competition will get the opportunity to take a small vote on which idea and which team they like the most as well. Anyone who truly started their business, will they get fundraising through the competition? Sadly, we'll not be doing funding for this just because this is the very first time, so it's a good test run. However, what we will do for the winning team is we will provide them various services and help on structuring their idea and pushing forward with that in future competitions, as well as getting them connected to potential people that could fund them. So we don't have the power or the money or the resources. Sadly, we're just a nonprofit that's just looking to help out community college students, but we do have connections and know people that would be able to help the winner of the competition to push forward with their idea. I think that would be amazing if we had a successful business come out of our competition. There's another section for oh yeah, and if you do have questions, I'm kind of just reading the chat, but I can answer that inside of the Q&A portion too. Who will the audience be for the competition? Well, the audience for the competition will be you guys. So essentially, we'll be sending out the link for everybody to watch the competition, not just from your college, but from all colleges in every area. So they'll get to see how everyone else is presenting, and you get to check them out and see what they're up to and how to get more ideas for their competition or for their event or their idea, even if they're not participating, just in general. So the audience will definitely be you guys and your friends and people that you would like to jump into there. Okay, where can we find the rubric on the site? That I'm going to pass over to, I think Jay and Bill know that more. So hopefully they can answer that in chat. Could participating in this competition lead to scholarship opportunities? That's a good question, actually. So what I would say is that there is a lot of potential to, have help from the College Leap team, especially from Berkeley, UC Berkeley, to support your team on getting them, maybe some financial help. Um, Not sure if it would be scholarship for schooling or stuff like that. However, if you are transferring, I'd say this is a big push for your applications, just because if you're applying for Berkeley and you're getting involved in this massive business competition that Berkeley is running, it's a good opportunity for that. So that's what I can say about scholarships for now. That could change, but for right now, we just might not be giving out any money from the College Leap end. Sorry about that. Does the business have to be doable? For example, some Japanese want to build an elevator from space, Earth to space station. I would say yes, it has to be doable, or at least it has to be feasible. It can't be something like, you're gonna solve the cure for coronavirus and that's your business is just, coming up with the cure for corona. That would not fly. It's got to be something that you could potentially put a model together if you have enough resources to. Think your startup idea. So when you're going to a business or you're going to potential investors or venture capitalists, people that give you money, they want to see that your idea is possible, and they're investing in that fact that your money could be possible. Or that your idea could be possible. So do keep that into account. So don't go overly crazy with that.
So don't stay tuned for our next workshop will be the same date. So it's going to be Friday, same time next week. So if you haven't done so yet, I highly encourage you to register for that one. That one will be on business model. So Professor Liu, after hearing Professor Liu's presentation, now you should have an idea that you want to work on. And the next step is going to be build a business around the idea, how the idea can be a business, right? Whether it can generate revenue and all that. So the next presentation will be given by Vivian from City College of San Francisco on how to build a business model around an idea. So stay tuned for that. And also you can find the latest information about NBPC and College Leap on our website. Don't forget to follow any of our social media. We do have a very active social media account on both of LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Follow any of them. They're all the same content there, so don't forget to do that. And also, if you're interested, you can in other ways that you can join College Leap or work with us. We encourage you to apply to be a chapter leader. You can find more information on that on the join in session on the website. All right, that'll be all, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And we look forward to seeing you for next Friday.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Liu.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.